Again, the words that you'll hear represented tonight were really the words that a woman told me as she talked about her workplace and the types of things that were happening there. Harvesting, I'm assuming that an audience in Arizona has a pretty good grasp of the world of harvesting. It's a workplace that has, of course, unique challenges. Can you think of any special challenges associated with harvesting? Exposure, right? You're out there in the elements no matter calor, frío, lo que sea. And what else?
Temporality.
Right? Yeah?
Very deplorable conditions. So inhumane conditions, I would say.
The position you're in physically.
Another thing that occurs to me is that a lot of times harvesting takes place in an isolated situation. You have to depend on your bosses to get to and from work, right? So there's sort of a chain of command that's unquestionable in that way. So I guess we'll watch the scene.
It was very difficult working in the fields. You would see how all the workers would suffer. And many of the workers were just 12 or 13 years old. They cried as they worked. And then the men would just gossip about us, and they would just say how we women just like to have sex with our husbands and with just any man off the street. But they were just pure lies, mentiras. You would hear the words puta and prostituta. And many of the women heard all these insults, and nobody ever really said a thing. And then there was the whole thing about pressuring us to have sex. The heifers in the fields would just treat us like we were prostitutes. There were just so many horrible things happening in the fields. That was just something we had to look out for. And then there was this female supervisor. She was kind of alegre. She would come really close to some of the women and touch them and whisper things to them. And we're from such a different culture that we really didn't know what to make of it. It was just really hard for us to have to face that.
Let's go!
Apúrenle!
Come on now. Oh, is it too hot for you? Yeah, I bet you're thirsty.
It's always something. Too hot, too cold. Ugh, so lazy.
Come on now, beaners. We gotta make quota today.
Huevones. Hey, mamacita. Look at this one. What time are you getting out of work, baby? Huh? Oh. Vas a ser mía. You're gonna be mine. See you later, mamacita.
Don't let down.
Apúrale, India. Mojados.
I guess I never realized how bad things were at work until I actually had to sit down and give my testimony. I applied for the U visa, and we had to document everything that happened at work. We worked with an attorney and with a counselor. Many of the women didn't realize how similar our mistreatment was until we actually had to talk about it. But they picked on us because we're from Guatemala y somos chapines. What I mean is, first of all, we're smaller. Our size made us perfect for detail work. They would always have us pick up the smaller fruits. And second of all, we're from farther away than the Mexicanos. We wouldn't just pack our stuff and leave and look for a job somewhere else. We would do anything to keep our jobs, to keep our family together, to keep our children in school. But it's true. They insulted us all the time. They called us wetbacks and
Beaners.
Mojados.
Wetbacks.
Indios patarrajada.
and many of the workers didn't really know how to defend themselves. They spoke different languages, and they spoke Quiche and Cachiquel, and not all of us spoke Spanish. And they laughed at us because of that too. But that was just life in the field.
We're going to ask the actors to come back on in the field. The interactive thing we're going to do with this is going to be something that we call talk back. So for this, you don't have to sculpt, you don't have to worry so much about your body, but you are going to be able to articulate what you think the worker might have wanted to say given these circumstances. So if you can think of some words to kind of put in her mouth, what you can do is you can come on stage and say those words. To let us know who you're saying it to, you might tap that person on the shoulder. I don't know who you want to talk to, but you might come close to them, tap them on the shoulder, and then you can actually say the things that perhaps the worker didn't get a chance to say. Any ideas? What would you say if you could talk back? It could be in English or in Spanish. It could be in Cachiquel if you speak it. I don't speak it, but.
About talking back with percussion.
Oh yeah, go for it.
You don't treat people like that.
Anyone else? Go for it. There's so many to choose from.
Estoy aquí por mis hijos. I'm only trying to work for a better life.
You may not have respect for her, but there is a line that you're crossing.
touch me. Don't put your hands on me.
Anything else? Okay. Can you all remember your lines? Can you remember what you were told to say? If I say on the count of three, could you all say them at the same time? Ready? 1, 2, 3.
You don't
Don't
treat
touch
people
me.
like
Don't put
that.
your hands
And
on
there's a
me.
long crossing.
For you, which was the most powerful voice? Which was the most powerful message? You can say it out loud, folks.
His voice.
Okay. Okay.
He crossed the line.
That was the most powerful message? Okay. For the person who's actually the victim, do you think that she was hearing these voices in her head? Do you think that she could imagine those voices, even though she wasn't articulating them? What do you think the impact was on her of having all those different ideas swimming in her head?
That they were aware of what's happening to
Yeah, I think maybe she had a feeling that those voices, not only in her own head, but other people were aware, right? They also had their little voice in their head saying something. Okay. Any other impact of hearing all those voices all at the same time? Any other reflections? Yeah?
I was just going to say that, like, I feel like we all felt that her message was more powerful, or I don't know, it's just like me, because she was actually being physically abused. And it's a lot easier to say, stop touching me, than to say, stop hurting me or stop insulting me. Because I feel like, I mean, that's how I felt, because I was just thinking, like, what would I say in that situation? And if it was something like, with them, where they weren't being touched, they were just being insulted continuously, it's just such a humiliating feeling that you wouldn't really, or at least, like, what do you say to that? Like, anything you say is not gonna matter,
Mhm.
because, you know.
Yes?
I wanted them to say it more forcefully, with more emotion. I mean, I heard them say the verse, it sounded right, but it's like, I felt like they're still repressing really what they want to say.
Any other reflections, impressions? One of the contexts in which you guys can, relax. One of the contexts in which we're using this material is that we've been appointed by the Department of Justice, by the Office of Violence Against Women, to create some scenes that are going to be used to train victims advocates who work with undocumented people, and especially with undocumented women. So one of the things that these advocates, and I have a feeling that there might be a lot of advocates in the room, maybe you haven't been appointed by the Department of Justice, but I think there are a lot of advocates in the room. One of the things that the scene is trying to do is to allow you to practice your script. Of course, the script is going to be different in every given case, right? But to find your voice, what's the voice that you're going to use if you have to be an advocate, right? What are the words? What are the lines that you're going to use? I don't want to say that as if there were some superficial button you press and, oh, I got to say this at this given juncture. But it sometimes you need some practice. They're very, very difficult issues to disentangle. So I guess that's kind of where we're coming at with this sort of interactive method, just giving you a chance to try those words on for size if you get into that situation where you are going to have to be an advocate. Because sometimes the victim isn't going to be able to articulate that for herself. So you might have to be the voice that stands in, right? So this was your chance to practice your lines.